If it can be done, why can't I be the guy to do it? It's a rainy, dreary day out today, so good time to just sit back for a minute and go over the steps and the components, because when it comes to putting this dashboard together, man, I just don't want to miss anything. Well, I started out thinking, I'm gonna come back and, form some sheet metal, make the gauges fit in there and whatever else has to fit in there. Yeah, and there you're gonna have your dashboard. Yeah, but air conditioning, heating, defrosting, a gazillion little components, electronic components, switches and stuff that all has to fit together perfectly, as well as the windshield wipers and the moving parts that are in that maze of stuff as well. As I'm working on getting this gauge cluster mounted in there, it becomes evident that part of the mount is going to be connected to the mount for the emergency brake, park brake. So we'll design and cut and drill. Hold to the side of the car and to the steering column with the park brake apparatus bolted in the middle. And then from there, the steering column mount will go up to the gauge cluster. Those are the braces that hold the gauge cluster in place. So when I get all that bolted in place, things are going to be really solid. So we'll need a hood opener mount. We'll just bolt that to the bottom of the dash, and that wire's got lots of room, so it'll work perfectly. It'll be cute too. The park brake release is a bit of a challenge. This thing's pretty long, and the cable for releasing it is right here at the front. So probably have to do a loop through the back and out again, and then make some kind of a bracket to hold this thing up under the dash. And then we roughed in this old bottom part of the dash, and there's all of these pieces that go with it, like ashtray, cigarette lighter. There's the grill for the speaker, that goes there. We'll skip all of that because we've got to cut all the middle of the dash from the gauge cluster over to the glove box. And we'll keep the two ends of this original part of the dash, and we'll fill in between with new steel that we can perforate, drill, cut into the new design that will hold the Cadillac gauge cluster and all the controls that we need to put into our designer dash. And it appears that the glove box, well, I'm sure it will, it'll fit right back in there. I've got this big gap here. If nothing else, I can make a custom glove box. I can actually make it quite big. It goes back to like almost 2 feet to the firewall. That would give me lots of room for storage, which would be kind of nice. And I'm not going to spot weld this into place like it used to be. I drilled all those spot welds out, but I'm going to just bolt it in, screw it in across the top too. So we'll make that look fairly nice, and probably we'll put a piece of trim on there. What's going to happen is a slow curve near the top, and it gets sharper as you go, kind of like a parabolic curve. And yeah, we're going to just guess how to do that. And then this bottom one here, the actual is kind of a straight line here, we'll put the other jaw back on and make like a straight crease across there. When it's perfect, it's perfect. Then you don't nothing else you need to do. Put that flat jaw back on. Hallelujah. Good job. So with the HVAC system of the Cadillac in place, which we haven't moved, and the great thing is doing this whole renovation, this whole morphing these two cars together, in the end we turn the key, turn the heater on, turn the air conditioner on, and it'll just come on because nothing's been touched as far as the mechanical part goes. So the dash, because of that, is sticking out at the bottom. So, you know, it used to be sucked in at the bottom on the 49, but now it's kind of out. So it's out actually 1.5 inches at the bottom, more than it used to be. So we have to put a piece in here, triangular piece. The top is where the top used to be. The bottom is out 1.5 inches. Another 1.5 inches at the bottom, 0 at the top. And so that's going to be a tricky piece. So we'll make a piece in there with a flange that'll screw onto the old part of the car that held the dash in place. So we cut this off, cut off this old lip here, replace it with this. There's a new lip. We'll drill holes, screw it in. I've got original stainless steel strips that are actually like plenty long now because the gauge cluster is wider, so I'll have to just cut them off, but they'll go across there. I'll polish them up really good, and they'll hold the bottom of the dash onto the top dash. Here, and here, and here, and over in that corner, I have to cut air conditioning vent holes. Maybe I can look online and find some kind of an air conditioning vent. And there's a couple air conditioning ducts on the floor that empty out into the back seat. So that's going to be awesome, eh? Having a 49 Chev with Cadillac air conditioning. I'm taking a chance on putting the heater switch right here to run all this control. This is like the air conditioning, the seat heat, and the heaters and all that kind of stuff. It would either have to be right here or in the console, and it's going to be nicer here. But the issue is that the air conditioning vents coming out of the HVAC system are right behind this thing. So I've made some adjustments to this. I took it had a kind of a long beak thing sticking out with a circuit board in there and the plug-in. So there's what the back of that switch looks like. Okay, on the front there. And so this is the thing here. There's another circuit board that slides in there. Second circuit board. Plug-in is down the bottom there. And it used to stick out here. So I cut that beak thing off of there and did a bunch of modifications to it and stood it up and glued it to the back. So this plastic stuff, you know, you can cut it with whatever, hacksaw, jigsaw, bandsaw, table saw, whatever, and then use a soldering iron to kind of like melt the pieces together and kind of like weld it together. So that all is going to look good. The plug-in is right there. I better try that, test that too, because it's right down at the bottom here. Make sure it'll go in. And I got a little thing here to put my little, like, if it's going to be a hula girl or I don't know. What do you have to put in a 49 Chevy, right? And I'm actually going to make a little lip around there so that we can actually put stuff there. Probably my earbuds, you know, and it'll stay on there. I'm going to have to go through all of this wiring, this laying all over the floor, and see what switches and whatever controls have to go in the dash yet. Here's the sensor for the lights. Goes on the dash with this part facing forward so it can see the cars coming. And drill the hole. Yep, and there it goes. I don't know, maybe I'll find some kind of little chrome bezel or something to go around there, hey? So the traction control, I'll put it over there. Then of course the air conditioner vents, there could be 4 of them. They're gonna barely fit in here. I've got them ordered from Summit Racing and they should be here in a couple days. It's coming to Canada.
What's that?
Our money exchange is so bad, but they're sure fast. Summit Racing, pretty racy. Okay, and this is where the air conditioning is going to come out of the car. Ta-da!
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. You can point it towards you, point it away from you, shut it off.
Oh, sweet.
Oh boy. Look at that, eh? That. Same thing goes on here. So now I got to make 4 outlets off of the HVAC system. Not brain surgery, but it is almost rocket science. Everything is so tight in here. We've got this dash set up now, heater control sitting right here. Vents, aircon vents are going to come out here and here. Very tight. So I'm building this little plenum to go on top of the HVAC system. And basically we'll steer the air with these little pieces of exhaust tube that are 2.5 inch OD. This one comes out right towards the wiper motor. So we'll probably just leave it quite short and then try and run the hose right out that way. This one just needs to clear the back of the heater control switch, which it will, not a problem. I've managed to get this set square in here. If I put this little mark here on top of the edge of the plenum, then this is where the back of the heater control switch is. So I can stick this in here. Yeah, there'll be lots of room there. That'll be fine. I'll measure, make sure that those aren't going to conflict. And we will come up with an amazing plenum, 49 Chev with Cadillac air conditioning. Ha! That's living the dream. But the trick is that they have to come out of there and clear the back of this heater switch and go underneath the wiper motor, the 06 gauges and switches and buttons and readouts and all that kind of stuff mixed with a 49 Chev. But I think I'm doing a good job. Yeah, we'll see how it turns out. Remember when I was making the 49 body fit onto the 06 Cadillac, and I think I lifted this body on and off dozens of times. Well, same thing with this dash. it goes in and out and in and out, in and out and in and out. If you do a little bit of work and then you check it and see. So these curves right here, you need to curve this a little more concave there and there. A little more convex here, bring this up so that it matches nice. So I've done that 3 times already. But yeah, and so I've got it so it'll screw in and it'll be exactly the same place every time. That's important. I think that's quite beautiful. You know, that's a huge job, right? Making a plenum like that. That was even more work than the defroster one inside there. But anyway, it's gonna work. And this pipe just squiggles around there. Just misses. Well, I actually had to pound it in a little bit to get the right clearance. This one here is pretty straightforward. It just had to come out there with a bend, and that pipe will just go over to the other side of the dash. And I'm really happy with it so far. Now, over the time of working on this cherry red car, you know, amalgamating a 49 Chev Fleetline with an 06 Cadillac CTS. The reason I chose these 2 cars, well, because I wanted a 49 Chev, right? I bought it first. And I wanted a car that would fit under there and give me all of the mechanical stuff in a modern version. So the Cadillac CTS fits almost perfectly, weight-wise, dimension-wise, everything-wise. And so in doing this car, I found that I've had a bit of feedback from guys who've been watching, saying that, well, yeah, that's easy for you because you know how to do all that stuff. I actually have no clue before the first time that you do it, right? You just start doing it but here's the deal. You can't be afraid to try something you've never tried before. You've got to be bold enough and take enough risk. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You have to do it over again. And then when you do it over again, and look at, I mean, just these dash pieces, this hood over top of the gauge cluster, I did it 3 times before I got it right, and still had to make adjustments on it. But it's a hard issue, right? You just have to set your mind to the fact that, you know what, I'm going to learn to do some things that I didn't know how to do before. And I don't know, there's this attitude of, well, if you want it done right, you got to get a professional to do it right. Well, how did a professional become professional? He did it by doing it, right? Like, that's how you become a pro at these kind of things. And a one-off project like this certainly doesn't make you a pro, but it can bring you a long way in your skill and your knowledge and your understanding. And then being successful in this project, or the successes of this project, apply to the next project, even though it can be quite a bit different. So it's always good to learn new things, put your hand to new things, and don't be afraid. The worst that can happen is you do it over again and again and again until you get it right. And it's worth getting it right, because I tell you what, I'm pretty happy with this whole dash and the way that it's turned out. Yeah, it's cool to know that you can figure out anything, learn anything, and learn how to get it done. If it can be done, you can do it.
If you're a boy like me, you need to subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to Car Cobbler. It's my grandpa's channel, Car Cobbler channel.